since we're not talking about doing this till the beginning of next year anyway, then maybe bring this up at the, council meeting in May, and kick this over to then. I did look into it a little bit. The attorneys would still be county employees if we did a contract situation. We would just lay out. What I have to figure out is if we do contracts every year, or it would be a continuing contract unless they did something to violate the contract. I have to look into those issues.
Mark, is the prosecutor on board with the contract situation for his not attorneys that aren't full-time?
Yeah, I have not talked to Neil yet about that.
He has the same need you do.
Yes, he does have the same need. And I don't know if this, because we'd have to treat the prosecutors the same, if he would be okay doing a contract. I don't see why he wouldn't be okay with that, because he wants this to go through as well. That's what I'm talking about. I need to shore up some of these issues before I come back to you, hopefully in May.
And the difficulty you have recruiting lawyers for these positions is not generally related to the amount of money that we're paying them, but it is strictly related to the benefits.
It is, because, it's gotten to the point where, I've already mentioned this before, I think, all of our surrounding counties and other counties throughout the state, but it affects us because these attorneys go to different counties. All of the public defenders in Allen County get benefits, including the misdemeanor attorneys, which they added more attorneys because of that lawsuit. All the attorneys in Noble County get benefits, both health and PERF benefits in both those counties. In Steuben County, half the attorneys get benefits, health and PERF benefits. I don't quite understand how they do it yet, but I think it's the newer attorneys that go in there, and then after they're there for a while, then they might get the benefits. And when people move on, I don't know. There's only so many slots. Yeah.
They have the felony up to. Are they in the, is Steuben County in the public defender program?
They are.
So they don't get reimbursed for misdemeanor attorneys, but only for felony attorneys, so.
Yeah, and Dottie checked that out. I think, Don, last week we had an email from their HR person, and I think they had, was it 10 and half get them and half don't, something like that? Yeah, 5 do and 5 don't. So they have 10, 5 do, 5 don't.
One of the reasons I kind of like having them pursue this, instead of us doing a sweeping change and making everybody get the benefits, this could be a person, we could make levels or whatever in the contracts, and it could treat it.
Does that change with the new legislation that takes effect on July 1?
I'd have to look at the legislation on July 1 in May, yes.
Mark, excuse me, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead if you have. I know the big piece has been on the benefits has been the insurance part, and ours is two-pronged benefits, insurance and PERF.
Right.
Is this something, don't know where it's going to go? We haven't heard any numbers yet on anything there. Is this something that could be offered possibly down the road as insurance only without the PERF piece? And I think if it's a contract position, the PERF piece could be excluded from it there.
We could do that, I believe. The issue is, if we're truly trying to get to a situation where, you know, we're comparable with the surrounding counties, everybody else offers the perf on all those counties. So we did, I think last year, Susan had ran some numbers. We can run that again. I do want you to keep in mind, I think some of you are aware of the, I think the misdemeanor pilot program. You know, we had been talking about this for a while too. We have not been getting the reimbursement for misdemeanors, but now I think we're part of, DeKalb's part of this pilot program at least till 2000.
That changed, Mark.
Did that change
They,
again?
they stripped, we were initially among the 10 or 12 counties that were going to be in the pilot program.
Yeah,
And in its final version of Senate Bill 179, it was stripped out with the names. The positions are still there, but the people that are in those positions has yet to be determined. So the question is, who's going to make that decision?
right. Well, I'm sorry I jumped, but I'm pretty close with the people at the commission. And
So we'll
I'm pretty
still be
confident
in?
DeKalb's
Okay,
gonna be
good.
one of the 12.
That'd be great.
Anyway, I may be wrong. But anyway, assuming we are, we would get 40% for our 2 misdemeanor attorneys. So unlike some of these other counties, I don't know how many misdemeanor attorneys Steuben has, we have 2. And we have a total of 8 attorneys plus me, so 9 total. But yeah, so these are things I'd like to look at. Look at these issues and then maybe bring this up again at the May meeting, if that's okay. I don't know. I think it's something we need to look at. It would probably make more sense. I would feel more comfortable with it too. When Bob mentioned it at the subcommittee meeting, it was one of the first things you said. It was the first thing on my list too, which I mentioned too, because it just makes more sense to me. I thought that we could, when I was talking with Dottie, I thought we could get by without having to list it as a full or part-time, just by a salaried exempt learned professional, but apparently we can't, according to WISC. So,
And just to clarify, these are considered, well, currently they're considered part-time based on their hours, but also because they all have their own practices outside of what they do for the county or involved in a practice, right? So
well,
they're,
they, I don't know, originally it was considered part-time because we didn't think it would be as involved as it is. For example, you know, like I said, some of these other slots, to me, some of those misdemeanor slots in Allen County, they're a half a day of court time a week. And when we first set up our program, it was like that. It just has, it has blossomed a little bit since 2016, you know, so that's why.
But they're not
yes,
working-
they
yeah.
can maintain another private practice too.
So I honestly believe in the payroll system. The reason that they were coded as part-time in our system was when the FLSA rule came down about so much money for full-time people, yada, yada, yada. That when we were going through and seeing who our full-time people were, we were under the impression that these attorneys had coverage at their other jobs, which wasn't the case, I guess.
Right, a lot of them don't have this.
That was the white collar rule?
Yes, that one.
That they had come up with,
Yeah.
that IRS came up with.
And you also have to look at the fact that if we had to hire these as, and they're not on any kind of salary, I think you pointed this out to me, that it would cost us probably about $120,000 a year for one attorney, because if they charged their rate instead of going with the county rate, it would cost us more money. We would
Yep.
gain some if we can keep them. We don't have to hire us
Yep.
and pay them, because we're required to have an attorney there, but their rate that they charge at the office.
Yeah, they are paid as a salary. They're not paid on an
Yeah.
hourly rate.
Yeah, when we set up the program, Amy, back in 2016, what Bill's talking about is the hourly rate now, the minimum you have to pay a public defender, the minimum, now not their hourly rate in private practice, is probably $200 or $250, whatever it is locally. But you'd have to pay them $100 an hour. So if they just clocked 20 hours a week, that would be, if you do the math, $104,000 salary. When we we set this up in 2016. We set it up through the commission. They had come up here for about 2 years. We were in front of and trying to figure out what's the best way to save money. And it was to set it up so that they are salaried. So that's how it got set up from the beginning. But that's true. If we didn't have the salaried attorneys, it costs way too much money. If you're paying $100 an hour, just $100 an
I have a question, I think directed more to Dottie. Did you say, Dottie, that the council attorney and the commissioner's attorney would be similar to this? They get benefits, but they're salaried, they're not,
Right, they're both salaried exempt. They get X number of dollars every week. They're on a contract. It's kind of different.
But do they have-
They're learned professionals because they are attorneys.
do they get benefits?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
They are classified in our payroll system as full-time.
No, I think in order for Mark and for Neil to attract young attorneys to work here in DeKalb County, they're going to have to offer more than just a wage. The attorneys that he mentioned before, older attorneys, some probably getting near or in retirement age. One that's currently working that's been injured is probably not going to be coming back for quite some time. And you don't see any more young attorneys here. He's already gotten some of the young attorneys that are here, and some of the other ones don't want any part of criminal defense work or prosecution. So we're going to need to offer something other than just a straight pay.
Yes, I guess my point was that it's congruent with our current practice. If we have attorney for the council and attorney for the commissioners who also have outside practices, as Amy mentioned, that are getting benefits, this would be congruent with that practice that we're currently doing.
That makes sense? Yeah.
Let's say, at least when the negotiation for what I was paid had a lot to do with the fact that I was getting medical insurance. So at the time, the pay was reduced so that, and I prefer taking the medical insurance.
Which is
Not
something
that makes any difference today. That was a different time, a different situation.
But that's what Mark offered to us during the budget hearings last year, or for this year's budget, was no increase in pay.
Rick is right. You look at Steuben, DeKalb. There are very few young attorneys coming in. You gotta basically go to, I guess, Mark, I don't even know what you said. You gotta go to Illinois to get people up here because there are no young attorneys.
Yeah, and what I did when I started, the judges, when they selected me the chief in 2013, they wanted me to go out into this program, which I did. We did all the research and all that, and then they wanted me to hire local. Well, the problem was when I first started the program, as I have gone over this with you guys as well, you have to have certain qualifications. And so at the time, when we first joined in 2018, I had to grab attorneys from other counties because we didn't have the local attorneys that had the qualifications. So we had some out-of-county attorneys. Since then, every time I've done replacements, now I have I think every possible local attorney, in my office. So I've done that. I've followed up with my promise. But it is, I can see the writing on the wall. We actually have seminars now. I sent you guys a lot of stuff over the years, and I apologize. But, that stuff I talk about, the attorney shortage, you think it's probably a joke or something. It's not a joke. We have seminars. They're having seminars on the attorney shortage. So you might think it's a joke. And it's not like it used to be years ago. An attorney is a dime a dozen. That's what they heard years ago, and the kids wouldn't go to law school. We're not getting the young blood in these counties anymore. So, and I think the prosecutor's office is starting to feel that situation right now, and it's just going to get worse. So I'm just trying to protect our office for the future. And like I said, to me, the benefits are important, both, Dave, the health and the perf, just because otherwise I'm going to be coming back in the next couple of years. I'm just trying to, I would like to try to have both of them now, and then you guys deal with the salaries, it would make us competitive then, if I did that. So-
This is one of those things that we are obligated to provide indigent defense. It's our responsibility. We're going to either pay for it this way through this public defenders program, or it's going to hit us directly with no reimbursement coming from the state. And I'm glad to hear that Mark's got it tied down to the Public Defenders Commission, because the one thing, we're already getting 40% back on all of the expenses for the Public Defender's Office, with the exception of the misdemeanor attorneys. So if we are in this pilot program that they're going to reimburse us 40% for the misdemeanor attorneys, we will have money coming back into the budget. And that number, the original pilot program was 100% reimbursement, then it dropped down to 25% reimbursement, and they came back to 40%. So it is something that they're very serious about keeping and maintaining, but being in this pilot program will be a great benefit for us.
Yes, and one other thing, we do get the perf, if this is approved, both the perf and the health and benefits, we claim 40% and get that back, because there was some confusion. One or two of you maybe didn't think that would happen. And it's true what Rick is saying. If we, with this pilot program, if we are one of the 12, we have to be in compliance with the rules for those misdemeanor attorneys to get that 40%. And again, the benefit portion of that we would be able to get back from the state. So.
And I appreciate everything that you're doing and bringing up, Mark. And the only reason I brought that up, on the benefits insurance versus the perf side there, I think the council needs to know what all options are out there. To me, that's a transparency piece, and how the council goes. At least everybody has the information there.
Yep.
But you've done a great job of bringing us to the council. We'll bring it back up on the May agenda here. And, I just want to let you know, don't know how this will play out with the council, but I really respect you as a leader for bringing this and sticking up to your people there. So you've done a great job of bringing it forward and sticking up for the group that you represent. And I thank you very much, and I know the council does also. Does anybody else on the council have any other questions for Mark on this?
Just a point of clarity, Mark, this is, everything we're talking about would not go into effect until 2025, correct?
Right. It would really just be for just getting
The next budget.
in anticipation of our budget and everything, just trying to get things lined up for next year. Yeah.
Now, I hate to say never, because if he loses a couple of attorneys, or if the prosecutor's office loses a couple of attorneys and they can't hire anybody, they may come back and say,
That's
look,
true.
the only way I'm going to get somebody is. So it's always, all those kind of things are always in the air.
There are a couple counties in Indiana that the only two attorneys in the county are judge and prosecutor. An article race just
Well, and, look, the Valparaiso Law School's closed. Indiana Tech tried to open a law school that failed after, 2 years, 3 years?
Mr. President,
Just not producing.
to summarize this, I think that with the approval of my other two committee members here on the HR committee, we would just like to recommend those 3 recommendations for those job changes that are in the salary ordinance that we'll be discussing. And then we'll rescind our recommendation to make the lawyers full-time salaried exempt and wait until we figure this out in contract. Is that okay with Amy and Amy?
So, restate that then.
We just want to make the recommendations for the 3 different positions that were reviewed by WIS for them to move from one classification to the other, and we'll rescind our recommendation to make all lawyers from part-time to full-time salaried exempt. we're going to rescind that last part until they come back to us with the correct terms.
Okay, so Susan, what action do we need right now?
On that part, nothing. But the next part is the salary ordinance amendment, which includes the
Are you done with
rate
Mark?
changes,
Done with Mark?
not, yeah, the rate changes not until
Thanks-
25, but the
thanks, Mark.
category changes for community corrections, development services, and the prosecutor's victim assistant specialist that Bob had went over. And then the only other piece of that, the bottom there, you will see just a probation line. There were some new funds that were added after the original salary ordinance, so I just have to put them on an amendment to make the state happy so that when we're paying wages out of those, that we are kosher.
If we're amending the ordinance, does this have to be advertised?
No?
This could be taken care of today?
So we can approve on first, and then if you all agree, you can suspend the rules and pass it on the second and third, and then pass on the second and
Okay, do we have a motion to approve on first reading the amended ordinance 2023 OCC 10?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion by Bob Kraft and a second by Amy Prosser for the amending of ordinance 2023-OCC-10. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion is carried. Now, we're looking at suspending, how do we exactly?
Suspending the rules
For
to
the
vote
second-
on the ordinance on second and third readings, and that has to be unanimous among you all.
Okay, so,
I'll make that motion.
okay, we have a motion by Rick Ring to suspend on second and third reading, reading the ordinance, amending the
second
ordinance. Second by Bill Van Wy. Again, this will be, it takes 100% to do this there, so any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of suspending second and third reading here and voting on amending of the ordinance, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Amended ordinance is carried.
So
Okay,
now we need to vote on the second
Suspended
and
the
third.
rules.
oh, well, okay, now we need to vote on
Second, third.
acceptance, second and third reading here. So,
I make a motion that we pass that second, third reading.
okay, we have a motion by Bob Kraft that we pass it on second and third reading. Do we have a second? Second by Amy Prosser. All those in favor of approving the amended ordinance on second and third reading signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion is carried. Okay, do we have any other business amongst the council to come before us today?
Just a few updates from what happened in the legislature over the last 2 months. You've already heard about Senate Bill 179 that will do some expansion of the public defender program. There is also Senate Bill 33, which gives the township, territory, or district fire departments the ability to ask for a portion of the public safety income tax, which we do have. Now, DeKalb County is one of those. The bill passed as the fire departments may ask. The council must give a public hearing to their request, but it is a may give the money from that public safety fund. There is a dollar restriction or a percentage prescription of how much can be given in total out of that public safety money. A couple of the items that have been discussed since then is if those requests are made, is that if it's a township, territory, or district fire department, that they have maximized their township rates before any of that money be given. Because right now, that money is already committed to Our portion of it is committed to Central Communications to help fund them, and the cities and towns are all receiving a portion of that. If any money is given to the fire departments, it comes off the top. The original request or the original bill would have been that it only came from the county's portion, but now it comes off of the top. The other thing that need to be careful of is like, we'll take Auburn, Butler, or Garrett. Their townships that they're residing in are part of a territory. Well, the towns are already getting part of the public safety money. So if you give them additional, they're double dipping into that. So those are a few things to look out for.
And that's a may, not a shall.
That's a may give. And if those public safety funds are committed, and we don't have this, but the cities and towns might have that, if those funds are committed to paying a bond, we would not be able to reduce their portion to less than their bond payments. So that would put them into danger. Another bill that was passed is House Bill 1158, which changed it left intact current county contracting ability belonging to the commissioners, but it did also make changes where a constitutional officer may be able to sign contracts around or without the commissioner's consent. So Susan might be able to sign a contract that involves something that only involved her department. Now, there's many provisions in that law that involves the county attorneys and whether or not there's a county ordinance. The commissioners can pass a county ordinance that would establish a dollar limit on what those contracts could be. But this all came out of a lawsuit and some issues, of course, in Lake County, where the Lake County commissioners refused to sign a contract for the sheriff who had chosen a medical provider at the jail. The commissioners didn't like that medical provider, so the sheriff went ahead and signed it anyway, and it got taken all the way up through the court system into the Indiana Supreme Court that said that it was a constitutional officer that had signed the contract, and the money had been appropriated by the council. And a lot of this all focuses around whether or not the council has appropriated the money.
So that's the checks and balances right there.
That's the checks and balances, but it was changed a number of times in its final days. So there are a lot of amendments that need to be reviewed. But that was my issue with the contract, like if the prosecutor would want to do a contract with his attorneys, whether or not he could. So anyway, all that would need to be looked at as we're looking at these contract services. There were a number of other bills that were of interest to the counties, but those are really the biggest ones.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate the update there. Anybody else have, Susan?
Yeah, we need to go back to community corrections. So on her presentation of her 2025 adult grant, do you guys want to just make a motion that you acknowledge that she gave the presentation to you? Or just leave it as she gave it?
They just took no action.
Okay, so for the Change Academy. So I called Shannon while everything was happening, and Michelle kept saying that the amount of money, around $4,900, that she thought project income could cover, that she found out this morning could not cover. So what you are looking at is around $5,624 that will be coming from county general to make up the difference of the Hamilton schools loss, from what I can tell.
Out of money she already had.
So the monies that we appropriated in '24, you had appropriated all for wages. So Shannon did some figuring, and it'll be close, but there should be enough left in those to be able to cover that. So what they actually need is they need to know whether you're going to allow them to use that money, because a transfer will have to come before you. And that's what they need to know so they can submit something by the 18th of March.
But the money's there, and all we would be doing is transferring.
If you allow them to use it for something else.
We need a vote from the council to approve the transfer.
Well, you'll do that when the transfer actually comes, but
Do we need a consensus?
you
that
need
we
to at least
agree
let her
to
know
do
if you're
that?
gonna let her do it.
So do we have a consensus from the county or from the council to let her do that there? Because her deadline's coming up real fast on this, and the money is there. So
We'll have to have a
consensus,
transfer come to us.
that'll come later there on that.
It will,
And that
but
we'll vote on, but
when you guys did the county general, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, when you approved community corrections to have money coming from county general, it was because we were trying to get their wages up to where we're at. So I think they're just needing to know that, yes, you're gonna let it not go towards wages and go towards something else. The other part about it is I'm still trying to figure out if there's really 10,000 that needs to be covered, because the total amounts of the agreements are different.
do we
but I
have
can't get that answer
consensus
right now.
from the council then to, the money's there to say yes for the grant that's due on March 18th? And that's not a very, that's kind of awkward wording
So the
there.
grant was already sent in. It's approving so that she can send in her amendment to that grant
Okay.
for a final approval.
That's where they need the assurance from the council that we're going
Can I just,
Consensus or
can
not?
I just throw
Questions?
one more question out there, just for my own clarity here? Am I clear that Hamilton Community Schools had contracted for 2 spots for $10,000, and now they're going to default on that contract? Is that correct?
No,
That is not
these are
correct.
for the new, this is for school starting this
24,
fall,
25, okay, so
24
it's
to
not,
25.
for-
Wanted the seats.
gotcha.
They
had
paid
indicated but did
for
not.
the last school year.
Thank you, appreciate that clarity.
Give you a super.
Right.
I would like to make a comment. I think maybe I've made it in the past, but I witness Change Comedy on a weekly basis. They come to the YMCA to use the Y. They also have, in the last year, engaged with, I think it's Lifeline Counseling or something. And that, the gentleman that's in there working with these kids is tremendous. They're fully engaged. When he's one-on-one with these students, they are fully engaged in trying to better themselves and talk through their problems and issues. And that's really what's got them drugged down, is some of the issues in their life. And I'm super impressed what I've seen in the last year over the previous 10 years. So it's, they're doing really, really good work individually with students. So I just want to say that. So I would be okay with it.
And I'm more comfortable assuring them that we'll allow them to transfer
Yes.
something that's already there. If they were saying, promise me you'll give me an additional a couple months from now, that's a whole different matter.
Yep.
But transferring money that's already there, I don't have an
Do we have consensus from the council to allow them to transfer the money that's already there? Bottom line, no additionals, no anything that, which would take council approval. This is just consensus. Okay, you can do it. Excuse me. Do we have consensus? Rick? Amy's? Bob?
Yes.
Bill? Me? Rick? We have consensus. Pardon me. Anything else to come before the council? Anything from the audience? I want to thank everybody, council, good meeting. You brought up some great questions. Thank you from the audience, Bill. Thank you for clarification there. I'll accept a motion. Okay. About what?
They are at the hospital right now, getting tests so far. Everything looks okay, and they're waiting on a decision whether she can drive or not.
Do we have a motion?
Yes. Certainly our thoughts and prayers are with Michelle. I make a motion that we adjourn.
Have a motion from Councilman